One stormy night, a man and a puppy found each other, and their lives changed forever. This is the story of Golden Hearts, a tale of rescue, redemption, and unbreakable love. It's a story that will remind you of the power of hope, the beauty of second chances, and the incredible bond between humans and animals. If this story touches your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a story that could change your day. Get ready for Golden Hearts, a story you'll never forget. The rain poured relentlessly, drenching the already muddy streets of a small, forgotten town nestled in the English countryside. The sky was a canvas of gray, and the air carried a chill that seeped into the bones of anyone brave enough to venture outside. It was on such a dreary evening that fate intervened, weaving a story of compassion, resilience, and an unbreakable bond between a man and a golden retriever puppy. John Harper, a middle-aged man with a heart as heavy as the storm clouds above, trudged through the narrow alleyways of the town. His trench coat was soaked, and his boots squelched with every step. Life had not been kind to John lately. The loss of his wife, Emily, to a sudden illness 2 years ago had left him hollow, a shell of the man he once was. He had withdrawn from the world, finding solace only in the solitude of his small cottage on the outskirts of town. As he turned a corner, a faint whimper caught his attention. At first, he thought it was the wind playing tricks on him, but the sound persisted. Soft, desperate, and unmistakably alive. John followed the sound, his heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and dread. There, huddled under a broken wooden crate, was a tiny golden retriever puppy, shivering and soaked to the bone. The puppy's fur, once a vibrant golden hue, was matted and dirty. Its big, brown eyes looked up at John, filled with a mixture of fear and hope. John knelt down, his own pain momentarily forgotten. He reached out a hand and the puppy flinched, but didn't retreat. Slowly, gently, John scooped the puppy into his arms, feeling the rapid beat of its tiny heart against his chest. John carried the puppy home, wrapping it in his coat to shield it from the rain. Once inside, he dried the little creature with a towel and placed it near the fireplace, where the warmth slowly brought life back into its frail body. He rummaged through his kitchen, finding some milk and bread which he softened and offered to the puppy. The little one ate hungrily, its tail wagging faintly for the first time. As the storm raged outside, John sat by the fireplace, watching the puppy sleep. He hadn't felt this sense of purpose in years. The puppy, though small and helpless, had awakened something in him, a spark of hope, a reminder that life, no matter how harsh, still held moments of beauty and connection. He named the puppy Hope. Over the weeks that followed, John and Hope became inseparable. Hope's playful antics brought laughter back into John's life, a sound that had been absent for far too long. The puppy's boundless energy and unconditional love were a balm to John's wounded soul. Together they explored the country, with Hope chasing butterflies and John rediscovering the joy of simple pleasures. But it wasn't just John who was healing. Hope, too, had been given a second chance at life. Under John's care, the puppy grew stronger, its golden coat shining with health. The bond between them deepened, a silent understanding that they had saved each other in ways words could never fully capture. One day, while out on their usual walk, Hope suddenly collapsed. John's heart raced as he picked up the limp puppy and rushed to the nearest veterinarian. The diagnosis was grim. Hope had a congenital heart condition that required expensive surgery. The vet explained that without the procedure, Hope's chances of survival were slim. John was faced with a dilemma. The surgery cost more than he could afford, and his savings were already stretched thin. But as he looked into Hope's trusting eyes, he knew he couldn't give up. He sold some of his belongings, took on extra work, and even reached out to the community for help. The response was overwhelming. Strangers, moved by John and Hope's story, donated what they could, and within weeks, the funds for the surgery were secured. The surgery was a success, and Hope made a full recovery. The experience brought John and Hope even closer, solidifying their bond as a testament to the power of love and perseverance. John, once a man lost in grief, found a new lease on life through his devotion to Hope. He began volunteering at the local animal shelter, sharing his story and inspiring others to open their hearts to animals in need. Hope, now a full-grown golden retriever, became a local celebrity of sorts. Her story spread far and wide, touching the hearts of countless people. She and John continued their adventures, their lives intertwined in a beautiful tapestry of second chances and unwavering loyalty. Years later, as John sat on the porch of his cottage watching Hope play in the garden, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The stormy night that had seemed so bleak had been the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, hope, and the unbreakable bond between a man and his dog. Hope, now gray around the muzzle but still as spirited as ever, trotted over and laid her head on John's lap. He smiled, stroking her soft fur, and whispered, "You saved me too, you know." And in that moment, under the warm glow of the setting sun, John knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, just as they always had. After Hope's successful surgery, John and the little golden retriever became local heroes. The story of their bond and the community's collective effort to save Hope spread like wildfire. Newspapers picked up the tale, and soon John found himself receiving letters and emails from people all over the country. Some shared their own stories of rescue and recovery, while others simply wanted to express their admiration for John's selflessness. One such letter came from a young girl named Lily, who lived in a neighboring town. She wrote about how her family had recently lost their dog to illness, and how reading about John and Hope had inspired her to adopt another rescue dog. Enclosed in the letter was a handmade drawing of Hope, her golden fur shining brightly under a rainbow. John framed the drawing and hung it above the fireplace, a constant reminder of the impact their story had on others. The local animal shelter where John had begun volunteering saw a surge in adoptions. People who had never considered rescuing an animal before were now lining up to give abandoned pets a second chance. John often brought Hope along to the shelter, where she would wag her tail and nuzzle up to potential adopters, as if to say, "See, we're worth it." John's life had taken a turn he never could have anticipated. Gone were the days of isolation and despair. Instead, he found himself surrounded by a community that had embraced him and Hope as symbols of hope and resilience. He began organizing fundraising events for the shelter, using his own story to inspire others to contribute. Hope, always by his side, became the unofficial mascot of the shelter, her gentle demeanor and unwavering loyalty winning over even the most hesitant visitors. One evening, after a particularly successful fundraiser, John sat down with the shelter's director, Margaret, to discuss future plans. Margaret, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with a heart of gold, had been running the shelter for over 2 decades. She had seen countless animals come and go, but there was something special about Hope. "John," Margaret said, leaning forward in her chair, "have you ever thought about writing a book? Your story, yours and Hope's, could inspire so many more people. It's not just about rescuing animals, it's about finding purpose and healing." John hesitated. Writing a book had never crossed his mind. He was just a simple man who had stumbled upon a puppy in need. But as he looked at Hope, curled up at his feet, he realized that their journey was more than just a series of events. It was a testament to the power of love and second chances. With Margaret's encouragement, John began writing. At first, the words came slowly, each sentence a struggle as he revisited the pain of losing Emily and the loneliness that had followed. But as he wrote about finding Hope and the transformation that had taken place in his life, the words began to flow more easily. He wrote about the stormy night, the surgery, and the community that had rallied around them. He wrote about the joy of watching Hope grow and the lessons she had taught him about resilience and unconditional love. The book, titled Golden Hope, A Story of Rescue and Redemption, was published a year later. It quickly became a bestseller, touching the hearts of readers across the globe. John received letters from people who had been inspired to adopt rescue animals, reconnect with loved ones, or simply find hope in their own lives. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a man who had been struggling with depression after losing his job. He wrote that reading John's story had given him the strength to keep going, to believe that better days were ahead. John often read these letters aloud to Hope, who would listen intently, her tail thumping against the floor. "Look at what we've done, girl," he would say, scratching her behind the ears. "We've made a difference." One crisp autumn morning, as John and Hope were walking through the woods near their cottage, they heard a faint whimpering coming from a pile of leaves. John's heart skipped a beat. It was a sound he hadn't heard in years, not since the night he had found Hope. He knelt down and gently brushed away the leaves, revealing a tiny, trembling puppy. It was a black Labrador, no more than a few weeks old, with eyes that mirrored the fear and hope he had seen in Hope's all those years ago. Hope immediately sniffed the puppy, her tail wagging furiously. She looked up at John as if to say, "We have to help him." John didn't hesitate. He scooped up the puppy and carried him home, just as he had done with Hope. They named the puppy Shadow, for his dark coat and the way he seemed to follow Hope everywhere she went. Shadow quickly became a part of their little family, his playful energy bringing even more joy into their lives. Hope, now older and wiser, took on the role of mentor, teaching Shadow the ways of the world with patience and love. As the years passed, John, Hope, and Shadow became a familiar sight in the town. They continued their work at the shelter, inspiring countless others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. John's book remained a source of comfort and inspiration, its message of hope and redemption resonating with readers of all ages. But life, as John had learned, was a series of ups and downs. One winter evening, as they sat by the fireplace, John noticed that Hope was moving more slowly than usual. Her once boundless energy had waned, and she seemed to tire easily. A visit to the vet confirmed his fears. Hope's heart, the same one that had been repaired years ago, was beginning to fail. John was devastated. He had known this day would come, but that didn't make it any easier. He spent every moment he could with Hope, cherishing their time together. Shadow, sensing that something was wrong, stayed close to her, his usual playfulness replaced by a quiet vigilance. The day John had been dreading finally arrived. Hope, now an old dog with a lifetime of love behind her, passed away peacefully in her sleep, her head resting on John's lap. John wept openly, his heart breaking as he said goodbye to the companion who had saved him in so many ways. The community rallied around John once again, offering their condolences and sharing stories of how Hope had touched their lives. A memorial was held at the shelter, where a plaque was unveiled in Hope's honor. It read, "In memory of Hope, the golden retriever who taught us the true meaning of love, resilience, and second chances." In the months that followed, John struggled to adjust to life without Hope. Shadow, now fully grown, did his best to fill the void, but it wasn't the same. John found solace in his work at the shelter, where he continued to advocate for rescue animals and share his story. One day, as he was organizing donations at the shelter, Margaret approached him with a small bundle in her arms. It was a puppy, a golden retriever with the same bright eyes and golden fur that Hope had had. "She was brought in this morning," Margaret said gently. "I thought you might want to meet her." John hesitated, his heart torn between the pain of losing Hope and the possibility of opening his heart again. But as he looked into the puppy's eyes, he saw a familiar spark. A spark of hope. He reached out and took the puppy into his arms, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. "Welcome home, little one," he whispered. "We'll call you Sunny." Years later, John sat on the porch of his cottage, watching as Sunny and Shadow played in the garden. The pain of losing Hope had never fully gone away, but it had been tempered by the joy of new beginnings. John had learned that love was not finite. It grew and expanded, creating a circle that connected the past, present, and future. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, John smiled. He knew that Hope's legacy lived on, not just in the stories he told or the lives he had touched, but in the love that continued to grow, one rescue at a time.